I don't even know if it's working anymore. I don't know what's not working, what is working. Hello? Hello? Oh, okay. Oh, thank God. Oh, okay. Hey, Wordna. Thank you for sticking around for this. Oh my gosh, I have no idea what's going on. Ugh, this is embarrassing. I was literally yapping for 30 minutes. Oh my god, it's gonna be such a pain in the ass to edit for a video. Oh, I feel so bad for whoever sticks around and like why. Oh, and I had four people on here, and they didn't say anything. They're just like, oh, he's just standing there. Oh, all right. From the top, in this, all right. Who Would Win podcast number 4? We have Abraham Musser running the Harry Dresden Files Gauntlet. Whoa! In this corner, we have the Dresden Files, a late 90s to modern day telling of urban fantasy and adventure. Follow Harry Dresden as he investigates various case files of the magical community in Chicago. And on this corner, we have Abraham Musser from the Pale web serial, part of the Otherverse by Wildbow. You can read it online for free. He is the antagonist. He is one of the antagonists of the Pale web serial, an urban fantasy setting following 3 young witches as they investigate a magical mystery. Ooh. He's also one of the strongest antagonists of the series, and I was considering doing a Abraham Musser versus Harry Dresden video, and I quickly determined as I was collecting feats for both of them that Abraham Musser would kind of destroy Harry, so it wasn't really fair. So this is the compromise I made. Oh God, I hope the audio's still working right now. Oh, fingers desperately crossed right now. All right. So let's get into the meat of this real quick, because I was yapping for 30 minutes before. Still good, thank you. Wordna, you're a real one right now. You're a real one right now, Wordna. All right. So, let's do this. Who is Abraham Musser? Abraham Musser is the head of the Musser family, a family of practitioners who specialize in stealing magical items, magical creatures, and magical locations from other people. Respectively, these are called magical implements, which are basically soul-bonded items that have come with special properties. Magical familiars are basically magical creatures that have soul-bonded with a practitioner. And the magical locations are called domains, which are places that practitioners can claim and stake as their own and become like sort of like semi-demigods from within who can alter it. It really depends on how much power a practitioner has. But they all come with their own special abilities and stuff. Aside from that, Musser has various practitioner tricks, like he has wards on his body that can deflect metals such as bullets and knives. He has he's very actually physically capable. He's able to fend off a monster called a dog meat that can run faster than cars and scale up buildings, and is strong enough to like leave little claw marks in concrete. He was able to fend it off for like a few moments before he needed his familiars to save him, but he wasn't like stressed from it. He was just like very calm and collected as he did it. He has a special ability called the Sight, which is actually a thing in both series. where magical humans and stuff can use this ability called the sight to see magical imprints and stuff like that. And Musser's ability allows him to see the value and provenance of various people, items, and magical creatures. And coupled with his glasses, which allow him to enhance that ability, it allows him to get the stats and specs of magical creatures. And he's able, like, if someone creates a magical creature, he's able to tell who made it. Like, kind of like, it's really cool. He has a bunch of tricks and abilities that it would take a long list. In the previous video, I was yapping on about all his abilities and how long it would take to cover them all. But suffice to say, he has tons of tricks. He has tons of abilities. You can pretty much do a little bit of everything that you can think of. But what he prefers to do is fight with his stolen items and familiars, along with some boosts from his domains. Domain expansion. That's a Gojo's for another day. Gojo's for another day. But so what I decided to do is that since he's a bad guy, why not have him run up a gauntlet of Dresden File bad guys instead? And in that case, let's get right into it so that if anything goes wrong, I can at least say, hey, I got some of it done. My plan before was to break it up into 4 parts, or at least 3. Maybe it really depends. Well, I was going to cover Storefront, Full Moon, Grave Peril, and Summer Night. And I'm going to cover how Musser does compare it against all the antagonists of that series, like in a fight. Alright. So, starting off with Stormfront, we have the Shadow Man, who's the bad guy of Dresden Files, the first book. And he's very much of a lightweight kind of punk. He's not really like an adept magic user. He has a few tricks. So his namesake is that he can summon like a shadowy apparition of himself to talk to people from a long distance. And it's actually vulnerable to power. So like he can still be hurt by people like enforcing their will on the shadow if you're magical enough. And he doesn't even know that, which came as a big shock to him when Harry does it to him. He can also summon and enlarge scorpions to be like super strong and super big, but it takes time. I think it takes a lot of time for him to go from a normal size scorpion to like a poodle size, and then to like I think a small car size. And even then, they aren't like super. I mean, they're durable for being so big, but they can still be crushed by elevators and hit by heat and guns and stuff like that. And he can also summon a demon. And I mentioned this in God, so much I have to catch up on. I mentioned this in the other live stream before everything went wrong. But like demons in the Pale Web serial, or the Otherverse by Wildboat, are sort of different from the demons from Dresden Files. For one thing, as some very helpful fellow readers of Dresden Files have clarified to me, that demons the word used by Harry is kind of like him being like, oh, this monster I don't know is scary, it's probably a demon. He doesn't actually know. He doesn't actually know what's a demon and what's just a scary monster that he doesn't know about, which is kind of problematic for what we're going to discuss in a few of these. But there are like fallen angel demons in Dresden Files, so that's something we can talk about. And he does summon like actual hell demons, so that does the thing. But they aren't exactly the same as the Otherverse demons and angels and fallen angels. I mean, so the demons in Pale and Pact and other stuff from Otherverse, they're kind of different in the sense that they're like walking nuclear bombs. But if the nuclear bombs emitted radiation, that just annihilated matter, like as in it furthered entropy. That's in everything that they touch worsens. That's the scale of demons. Like if you came down to fighting a boogeyman that will like haunt your nightmares for the rest of your life and skin you alive, you prefer that over a demon that would just like cut you. Because a demon that cuts you, it's gonna fuck you up like existentially, like down to your soul. Like you're scarred. Like you're literally like ruined in more ways than you can imagine. than if you just had your skin like flensed off. That's how bad demons are. Not that Musser fights demons. It doesn't. Demons don't come up again with Musser particularly. Like, he's the kind of guy who's more like fighting armies. Like, it's mentioned multiple times that he could kill an entire like army of goblins in mass. He's strong enough that when it come down to like deciding like, oh, can we, like, if he's just like without any of his allies came to our city and all of our resources came together, if we fought him as one, could we defeat him? And the answer was probably no. He'd probably destroy our city or everyone that was that'd be able to fight him. And like in the series, there are these beings called lords, which are what happens when a human practitioner or an other or anything that's like sufficiently magically inclined is so strong that he beats all people and becomes like the de facto leader of a city or town or whatever. And he claims an area and he gets a power boost and abilities. 9 of these ambushing Musser as he was tired and drained and exhausted was not seen as a guaranteed win. It was seen as like, oh, it might work. It might work. And you know why? It's because he's defeated like 40-something different lord competitors before. He's defeated other lords that were like built specifically to defeat him. Like, they might slow him down a bit, but they don't actually, like, he never loses. Like, at one point they're like, yeah, he's not someone who you can generally beat in a fight unless you're like an absolute god tier. That's what it takes to beat him. Like, an actual god has to step in and say, hey, I'm gonna fuck you up. And she does. And it's pretty great. But okay, that's the scale of Musser. So, Shadow Man. Oh yeah, and Shadow Man can do a little thaumaturgy thing, which is like, you know how in stereotypical like voodoo stuff, like they put a pin in a voodoo doll and it like pokes someone. He can do that, but it's a little bit different. He has to get their DNA, strap it to like a rabbit, and then use the power of the storms to like carve out the rabbit's heart and then have it like explode in the person's chest. So you can tell there's going to be some problems because first off, he has to get the DNA of Musser, which is not going to be easy because Mussers are actually super, super, super protective of their DNA. Like Musser's son right here, Reed Musser, he would not masturbate without because he would leave DNA. He couldn't have sex with a woman that was like super into him without permission and making sure that his DNA wouldn't be taken. And it's a good thing he didn't, because you know what? There's another bad guy in this series who had his sperm stolen by another bad guy. And that sperm was used to sort of do the thaumaturgy on him, but with like instead of doing like ripping out his heart, he just did it to get a little bit of extra, like, you know, oomph for when he stole his vision style. So you gotta watch out. Those wizards are after your sperm. You can't trust any wizard with your sperm in these books, alright? Dresden Files or in Otherverse, alright? Protect the sperm. If you've seen Danadan, they want your balls. This is so stupid. I can't believe I'm saying this. Alright. Okay. So, Shadow Man. Not a threat. Honestly, like, there's not, like, if it came down to it, the demon's gonna be the biggest issue, but the demon got killed by, like, a lightning bolt. And, Musser here has a familiar that shoots out laser beams that are, like, hyper-condensed lightning from its mouth and obliterates it. Like, there's a point where he's fighting like these super strong others. By the way, others is a general term for magical creature. I'm sorry if I use them interchangeably. I'm very confused with all that stuff. Also, there's 3 people in chat. Hello, 3 people in chat. This is gonna be so fucked up already. But you know what? We persevere. When I edit this video, it's gonna be super clean. You won't even notice. But yeah, Victor doesn't have any advantages over Musser. He can't get DNA of him because The way he does that is like usually by sex, which Musser's not going to do because he knows better. By having a goon like beat him up and steal DNA from people, and that's not going to work because Musser is like 6'6", built like a fucking mountain, and he's actually super adept at fighting. Like I think I mentioned before that he's able to fight off monsters by himself for a brief period of time, and like super strong, super fast monsters. Like he probably wouldn't win in a fight against a monster by himself. Well, maybe he has teleportation and a blade that when it cuts you, it automatically like poisons you. Like poison is actually kind of selling it short. Like it rots your body and like tears you apart from the inside. And he has a glove that can catch bullets and stuff that dampens the energy. So like if you threw a punch at him at the speed of with the power of a bullet, he'd be able to catch it and be fine. Like he's just so fucking OP. All right, well, you know what? Victor dies. Like he could send all the scorpions he wants. He can try sending the demon after him, but for one thing, the scorpions are fodder. The demon gets annihilated, and he Musser probably just slaughters the Shadow Man. All right, that seems simple enough. All right, so what is about Full Moon? Full Moon deals with werewolf. Oh, well, it's actually, I guess there's several threats in this, but we'll talk about two of them. So the werewolves are FBI agents who are given wolf pelts that allow them to turn into evil, bloodthirsty wolves, and that's kind of it. They're not really a big threat. I don't even know if Musser needs a familiar first. Like the series is trying to hype up wolves as being super scary, and they are in real life. Don't get me wrong, but Musser is not scared of wolves. He could have any of his familiars tear apart wolves. Like Rabbit Hunter, or not Rabbit Hunter, Rabbit Killer is a fucking monster that like controls shadows, which would fucking kill Shadow Man now that I think about it. Why the fuck am I forget about that? No, Rabbit Killer is an other that like manipulates shadows, like, and it eats rocks. It tears apart like living creatures and sinks into them to annihilate them and tear them to bits. Like, and it does this to rocks too. And it can sink, like, it travels 100 feet faster than someone who could take a single step. It's fast. You'd be annihilated. Like, even when he was fighting like immortal soldiers that can revive from anything called dog tags, like they can heal from any injury and get back up. Like he tried that, and I'm sorry, what was I saying? Yeah, so a immortal soldier fell into the shadow and had to be rescued because they didn't know what would happen if it kept tearing him up. They'd probably just reform later, like days later, but still, it was like agonizing being eaten alive, basically. So the wolves are not a big threat. Like the only big threat is that there's a lot of them, but that's not an issue, because Musser can slay armies. I can't stress it enough. There's someone who's like close to his strength, but not as close, according to the god that defeated Musser. And that person could also defeat armies. This is the scale of Musser is at. So he's like, a bunch of wolves are not going to be a big threat to him. I'm sorry. Like, Harry chooses. It was very funny because Harry's like, "Oh my, you want me to fight wolves? Do you know what wolves can do? I'm tough, but like they can tear me apart." And I'm just thinking, like, fucking, that's it. Like, I mean, he's not very strong. Harry's not that strong, but he's stronger than wolves, even in the book. And I don't know. But anyways, yes. Musser annihilates the wolves. Like, he doesn't even need to work at it. He just needs one familiar to handle it. The Loup-Garou is another story. So the Loup-Garou is it's a long story, but basically, God had one of his saints curse an entire man's bloodline, so they turn into an immortal, eternally regenerating monster wolf man that will kill everyone in a full moon. You know, that's basically the werewolf stuff. And Loup-Garou is one of the strongest creatures we've seen, in that nothing could kill him except passed down silver. It can't just be silver; it has to be silver that's passed down. Why? Who the fuck knows? But that's his limit. he can't be killed by anything other than past. He can't be killed by anything other than past silver. All right, and he's super strong, super fast. Like he gets the Luke-Guru gets like blasted by what was it? A condensed beam of fire or condensed beam of force. It was one of those. But the point is that it was enough energy that it knocked him through several walls, several concrete walls, several metal bars, across the street and into another building, and it got up and was fine. Like, it healed it and it was fine. So you might be thinking, well, is Musser screwed then? Is Musser weak? Because, Musser has a bunch of lightning and energy beams, and he can, he has a super soldier on hand that could possibly hold off a Luke-Guru. He has the rabbit killer that could probably eat it, but would that kill it? Who knows? Like, could he set it on fire? Fire doesn't work. And could he have his others, like, tear it apart? Like, one of them's a boogeyman that can cut people in pieces within seconds? Maybe not. Maybe see. I'm being facetious. Yes, Musser would win. And here's why. You see, one of Musser's magical items is a little cigarette lighter that when he flicks it open, sets his target on fire. And you might be thinking, Tom, you just said fire is not going to work. That might be true. However, one of Musser's familiars is called a Dana. Or Dana. And the Dana can turn that fire into holy fire. So, it's literally called divine fire. And she can be further boosted by another magical creature that Musser has, called Nova, who is an icon, who can give magical power to Musser to heal him, but also to his familiars for extra boosts. So, the holy fire would be the one that could kill him. And if not, if somehow the Luke-Guru survives being emulated by divine fire that burns away corrupted spirits and stuff like that, that same Dana can also take the Luke-Guru and send it to the spirit world and trap it there forever. And so Musser wins again. This is what I'm saying when I'm talking about Musser having an answer for everything. You might be thinking, Ritam, are you pulling this out of your ass? No, this dude is broken as hell. He's just absolutely insane. Mic check. But yeah, so Luke-Guru, not an issue. Grave Peril. What was Grave Peril? Oh yes, Grave Peril was. That was a lot of threats actually, but we'll focus on the vampires and the nightmare. The vampires are not going to be a threat. Like I just said, he can fight armies of goblins, entire towns. He can fight very weak primevals. Oh, by the way, primevals are these before human history creatures. It's a whole thing. Just imagine them as magical dinosaurs, just for now. And they're so strong that ones that are the size of a bull can kill a dozen practitioners. So, and he can fight those. So he's on that level, generally. But like I said, army killer, city killer, lord fighter, lord killer, primeval killer. He's killed a god, a very weak god, but it was a team effort. But he helped that. Alright, so that's his thing. Vampires are not going to be an issue. Bianca's going to die. Ortega is probably going to die too. Ortega is pretty strong from implication, but not much else. Yeah, Bianca's not that strong. She's dead. All the vampires die. Mavra might die, actually, depending. I need to learn more about Mavra, but I'll put her as a maybe. He had years to build up his armory and arsenal. Yeah, fucking Musser's cracked, dude. He's absolutely insane. I wonder if I should just make a video, I should start just making videos of characters I'm doing videos on before, because it's a lot to cover. But he's just on another level entirely. But okay, so vampires are probably dead. You don't really have any good counters. He has a divine fire, so they all burn up. Then they also can't handle normal fire anyway, so they're screwed. So that leaves the nightmare. The nightmare is kind of complicated to describe. Basically, this wizard, or I guess they call it a warlock. So this warlock made some kind of ritual. It's implied that he may have used a death curse. Like when wizards in the Dresden Files are about to die, they can create something called a death curse, which is when they summon all their remaining magical energy and will into like a final fuck you to whoever they are aiming at. And it's implied that he may have used this along with a ritual to become this thing called the Nightmare, which is this ghost of himself that haunts the spirit world called the Never Never. It's a stupid name, but it's called the Never Never, or spirit world, or whatever. It's his ghost, and he kills people by going into their. Hey, I just realized it. Okay, so the nightmare kills people by going into their dream state, which is called a domain. Funny enough. Now, this might be an issue because Musser, to my recollection, does not have any specific nightmare resistance per se. He does have curse resistance in that he has these like 80 plus beads on him that if any curse lands on him, washes off and is purified immediately. And it takes like a year or so for the beads to grow up back, but 80 beads, so he's not going to be touched by curse. So that may be a thing. But he also has Vidana as a psychopomp, so she would probably deflect any attacks against him. And there's also the fact that the thing with the nightmare is that he worked on surprise. Like, most people don't expect to be attacked in their dreams, but once Dresden realized that he was in a dream, he was able to overpower the nightmare and kill it and eat it. That was a long story. So, but yes. So, it's actually a question of like, okay, so he has a Vidana that could protect him. He has probably some, if he'd like aware of it being a dream attack, he'd probably attack. He'd probably be able to kill the nightmare. But there's also a chance that things just don't go that way, and the nightmare could possibly do some serious damage. That's an interesting one, because the nightmare attacks in a very, what's the word I'm looking for? Abstract way. So it's interesting to consider. I don't think it's a big issue, because, like I said, he has the curse beads that will defend him. He does have Vidana that could redirect a... Oh, yeah, the Vidana basically can redirect instant kill spells, too. Which is fucking crazy to think about. That's fucking broken right there. She just redirects the instant kill spirits and be like, denied. Alright, so that's Alright, so I'd say that's a good 75% chance that he clears it fine. I mean, that's just because the nightmare is just so weird to consider as a fight. But like, if he there's a lot of win conditions though, so it's very likely that he makes it through. Summer Night is where things get a little tricky, because you see, Summer Night has him fighting against one of the most powerful characters in the book, the Summer Lady, and her cohorts, but mostly the Summer Lady. So we don't actually get to see this Summer Lady fight too often. It's implied that she's so strong that the only reason Dresden survived was because she wasn't actually taking him seriously. And there's a valid reason for that, honestly, to believe that, because from what we see of the ladies of summer, which are like, they're basically fae and stuff like that, like the fairy, the she, the whatever you want to call them, the fae court, fae people. What we see of ladies of similar skill and ability is that Dresden's like a fly to them. So yeah, I could believe that the Summer Lady only lost because she let her guard down and was killed by a bunch of tiny fairies with iron knives. So in pure power, I could imagine, based on hype, that the Summer Lady would would be able to be a huge threat against Musser. Because we see like weaker beings that serve her, like I can't remember. Like he was disguised as a troll, but he wasn't actually a troll. One of her servant knights was like super strong, capable of deflecting magic easily, and elemental magic at that. So that's going to be an issue right there. But is that a lose for Musser? I don't know, because the Summer Lady lets her guard down, but would she do have Musser? Maybe, but this is a tough one for me because we don't see enough of her. But by like based on how stronger she probably is than her lackey. Well, you know what? I'm also not including the fact that Musser himself knows Fae are weak to iron and silver, and other types of metals except aluminum. And he does have what was I saying? He does have his abyssal sword, which I mentioned before, which when it cuts you, it literally eats you from the inside out. He does have divine flame, like I mentioned. He has another implement called the binding pin, which he can flick, and it flies out with so much force that it captures a woman in midair, launches up into a solid marble roof, and pins her there by her spinal cord. So that's his scale right there. I'm not even including like his sheer elemental power and his super soldier familiar or a bunch of other stuff that he can do. But this is a tough one. I think that if he uses iron right, he could probably defeat her lackeys. But if she starts taking him seriously, that's a question that has me going like, ooh, I don't even know. It really does not help that we don't see her fight that much. The very brief bits that we see her is like her overpowering Dresden's mind and knocking him on his ass a few times. A lot of transmutation to look like something that she isn't and stuff like that. I don't know. That's a tough one. I'm going to leave that as NA, not available. There's just not enough information. I feel like I'd need to see her in action to really get a good vibe of it. There's ways of victory for both sides, I think. You know what? Let me do death masks. You know what? It's a top row right here. Why not? Why not? Let me just refresh myself. It's been a while. Oops. Come on. Ah, yes, Death Mask. Okay. Sorry, there's a lot of books. This one's gonna be this might be this might be his like first actual defeat here. It depends. So Ortega, the big threats are Ortega and Nicodemus. Oh boy. So Ortega is not going to be too much of an issue. He's not actually that impressive. Like from what we learn, he's supposedly a strong fighter, whatever, warlord, clever. He doesn't really show anything impressive. He gets wounded by bullets. He uses bullets and guns, which are useless against Musser. Musser can literally cut several rounds. Like, you could have 5 people shooting automatic weapons at Musser, and he'd be able to catch all the bullets with his glove and runes that he has on his hand to ruin any impact on him. He's not going to be in any danger of Ortega, at least. And as a vampire, he can fight another villain as a treat. Yes. Yeah, Ortega is not a big deal. Nico, I'll just call him Nico. Nico is another matter entirely. He does have his lackeys, the snake dude and his daughter, the whip girl. The what is it? The Medusa girl with like the metal braids. And those two are basically nothing. They're not like big issues for him. Oh, I guess he also has the chump guy that like turns into a giant man bear pig thing. Also, not a big deal. They do have some tricks up their sleeve and they're strong, but they aren't like, oh, gotta watch out for Medusa or Snake Guy or Man Bear Pig. I'm not even joking. That's like literally almost how he's described. He's and they're not really that strong or cool. Nicodemus, however, is like legit. Might be a stomp right here for. No, it might. It might be 50-50. It might actually be the first one where I'm like, I can't tell who would win, and not just because there's no information, but because Nicodemus is so impressive. Like, he's able to catch up to a speeding train after falling off of it. He's unconcerned with automatic gunfire. He's unconcerned with being exploded, turned into a smear on the wall. His shadow is super strong, super flexible, allows him to fly. He has enhanced like speed with fighting and stuff. He doesn't actually show much magical ability. Magical ability. But what he does show is incredible speed and strength. Like, and normally I would say that doesn't matter much, but the scale of Nicodemus is enough that I'm like, ooh, that's actually that might be a problem. Is it an immediate lose though? Not necessarily. Musser might actually take this seriously because if he learns what Nicodemus is and like he has a fallen angel empowering him, he might actually be like, oh shit, demon time, I gotta fucking fight for my life here, and like just go all out, like all of his familiars, all of his and that means like using holy items, or like he has a familiar called an icon. Her name's Nova. She's very nice when she's not being controlled and manipulated and traumatized, but like can bless people and empower and like add like holy protection. The Storm Child, which I mentioned before, who can shoot lightning and stuff. And Videna, as I mentioned, who can purify things. And use like divine light to create basically holy fire. So that's it's not really good for Nico. It's not really good at all. But then again, Nico's just very strong in general. Like, theoretically, he could probably match Rabbit Killer's shadow manipulation. Probably not be as dangerous, but he's just not easy to take down. Like, Musser would have to. I think it really depends on how serious either side is going. Because Nico is they are both arrogant assholes, very arrogant pricks. I could see them really screwing up each other's chances. But it really depends. If they don't take it seriously, it can go one way. If they both take it seriously, it can go one way. This is tough. I don't know. I generally don't know. And I don't think Nicodemus is necessarily an army killer per se. Like, I don't think he'd be able to fight like an army of magical creatures by himself. I think he's just very well statted against Musser in particular, because when you have enough DACA, it becomes hacks. But also, Musser has enough hacks with DACA that it kind of balances out. And it's like, I genuinely do not know. Which says a lot to Musser's power that he can match up with someone like Nicodemus, who's like one of the most long-lived characters in the series and who's super strong. If Musser is able to use a lot of his divine magic abilities and tools and stuff to really fuck up Nicodemus, I could see it, maybe. And if Nicodemus just full on does not give Musser a moment to breathe and just keeps trying to focus on the man and not get distracted, but no, because Musser can teleport himself into the abyss, which is an awful, awful place. But it's like, it's basically what people thought in their universe, what they thought was hell, which is it's not hell, but it's so bad that people thought it was hell. That's what the abyss is. He can teleport himself there, and he can be protected by his spirits and various wards, and he can just like chill out and have his familiars fight for him. This is such a tough fight. I'm gonna tentatively say that as I know Nicodemus as of now, I would give it to Musser. Tentatively. Like, it would not be like, I would not feel like confident like saying with my chest that it was one that would be one fight or another, because I could see Nico winning. But it'd be so tough. I don't know. All right, I think that's going to be the end of this first part, because I'm kind of running out of time, and it was maybe if it hadn't gone wrong the first time and wasted 30 minutes. All right. So the end of part 1. Musser defeats Shadow Man of Stormfront. Musser defeats the werewolves of Full Moon, including the Loup-Garou. Musser defeats the vampires of Grave Peril, and most likely the Nightmare. Musser may or may not defeat the Summer Lady of Summer Night. It depends. Not enough information. Can't tell. Musser versus Nicodemus and Ortega. Ortega dies. Nicodemus is up in the air. I need to know more, but I'm willing to say 50-50 depending on circumstances at the moment. And that concludes part 1. I will probably be continuing part 2 on maybe tomorrow. Who knows? Maybe tomorrow or Wednesday. Either way. All right. This is Victoria Down's number 1 fan, Rid Tom, with the end of Who Would Win number 4. Thank you for coming, chat. Thanks for dealing with all my technical issues. See you next time.